you're standing in a huddle with other 6'5", other 6'7", 6'8" guys that you might be looking at a draft pick that you like, that guy's definitely going number one. That guy's going
Mhm.
at least in the first round. That starts to go here.
Oh yeah.
What does that look like? And so we're going to talk about a little bit today of what is the mental game, why it's necessary, and how it can get you from where you are to where you want to go. So maybe we can just jump right in of just you being in a huddle in Miami on national television, guys your size. What's that like?
Yeah, it was. So it was like halfway through the season, my freshman year, where I started to get a little bit of run, and I had a couple good catches versus Duke, and then we were playing a home game versus North Carolina, and it was a nationally televised game.
Mhm.
And so I'm in the huddle, and one of the other freshmen that came in was in my recruiting class was the number one recruit in the nation, and is Seantrell Henderson, who was the 6'8", 350-pound tackle, and just a huge person. But like across the board, our O-line was just huge. And it was a surreal feeling in that, like, I play with these guys. Like, I'm a part of this team. And so it took a lot of focus to even get to that spot, from going through the first training camp, going through the season, and just staying focused and ready for the opportunity. Because when I first got in the game before, it was at halftime where our offensive coordinator was like, "Hey, Asante, you're playing the next half," like out of nowhere. So it was like, okay, I put in the time and effort throughout the rest of the season. So it was like, now it's time to show out. And when I got my first opportunity, I showed out.
Nice. Okay, but I bet it didn't stay that smooth.
No. It did not stay that smooth. If only. Uh, it, you you have to learn how to weather the ups and downs and stay present enough to see opportunities when they show up, because like it's not always going to be smooth sailing, but your ability to stay focused under pressure and still have the ability to stay positive, still see opportunities when they show up, and be ready to take advantage of them.
Absolutely. Keyword, being ready, right?
Mm.
So thinking about the mental game, there's this really cool couple verses in the Gospels, and Jesus Christ is talking about two houses, and one is built on sand and one is built on rock, or today's we would call that cement. And they look the same. On the surface level, they look the same. Probably the cabinetry is really nice on the inside. You got an interior designer, right? And then, but here's the thing. They look the same until, like you just said, weathering the storm. Okay,
Yeah.
Here comes a storm. Here comes a flood. Here comes wind. Which one of those houses is still standing? And I think
Yeah.
of that interior design, like how do my socks look? How do my biceps look in this uniform? How does all that exterior is what we tend to focus on, right? It's like, oh man, I have way better cleats than that guy. Oh, I'm looking good. I know like Oregon wears like a new uniform every
Yeah.
single game, right? That's like those little interior design aesthetics that look pretty, but here comes a storm. Who's built on sand? Who's built on rock? And when I think of the mental game is rock,
Yeah.
to where you can weather a storm. You can step into a huddle and say, hey, that's the number one recruit, that. But wait a second, I'm in this huddle, right? I'm meant to be here, and I'm not separate from these, but I'm a part of this, right? There's that self-worth that hits you immediately when you're talking about all these different extraneous things like statistics or draft round, all that stuff which you've experienced. So can you talk about what it means to have that your house built on a rock and having that strong mental game?
Yeah, for me, that rock foundation was hard work. I think that when you're able to come back to, I put in all the time and effort necessary to be in this situation, that gives me confidence, knowing that this is an accident why I'm here. I worked my butt off to get to this spot right here. And even when there is a storm, like for me, I had to have shoulder surgery. So my sophomore year, I didn't play a lot. But that foundation of after that season, I went home and I just worked my butt off the next month. And that gave me more confidence coming back to really put myself out there and to really show the coaches like, I'm the real deal out here. But that confidence was that hard work was my foundation, and that gave me confidence. And when you, as an athlete, when you're out there playing with confidence, that's the most freeing part of the game.
Absolutely. So kind of going back to this house metaphor, right? If I'm in the gym, if I'm working out hard and I'm even working on my game, I think of that as just the building, right? But here's the thing, if I don't take any time to work on this, like if I don't dig a foundation, right? If you think about a building, I think the I don't know what they call it, the bracing that goes like hundreds of feet down to support a building that goes hundreds of feet up. And so if I look good, if I can run fast and all that, like that's just the aesthetics on the building. If I don't take the time, and I keep going back, take the time to lay a strong foundation, one little flood, one little wind gust can just blow all that down. Because the mind controls the body. The body will try to control the mind, and that's when you know you have an immature athlete. And when I talk about immature versus a mature athlete, I'm always talking about the best mindset possible. So a mature athlete takes the time to work on his visualization, right? We talk about the tools of sports psychology, the mental game, okay? When we use our minds, usually it's like worst case scenario, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Instead of like, hey, what do I want to happen right now? The visualization, laying in bed, okay? I would rather, if someone told me that I can improve my game by closing my eyes and seeing myself complete a catch beautifully and going for a run, or you need to do a max chest press every day, I'm going to go with the visualization, right? But people just spend so much time on the physical and forget about the mental, or even not have been introduced to the mental. And that's why today I want to establish with you and our audience of like, what is the mental game? Why is it important? And how it can, more than any physical or technical training, get you to where you want to go. So we talk about things like visualization, and then talking about your thoughts, right? Having a filter for what's coming in. I mean, when you're in Miami, just give me a couple real quick of the temptations and the distractions from Miami that can mess up your mental game.
Ooh, well, it is Miami, so we were in Coral Gables, so I will say we weren't near Miami Beach, although it's not difficult to go to Miami Beach. But the distractions there's like girls, there's obviously alcohol everywhere in college. And then also there are, as a college athlete, you have to worry about not getting caught up with boosters, which was a big deal when I was in Miami. We got sanctioned for 2 years because there was this huge scandal that came out of like 72 players over the past like 10 years getting caught up with this one booster. And it cost us some scholarships and some bowl games. So for my sophomore and junior year, we weren't allowed to go to a bowl game because we were under NCAA sanction. And so, yeah, those are a lot of the distractions that just come with the territory. But I love the fact that you talk about visualization, and then also like setting goals and intentions, like actually taking the time to write out what you want. For me, I did that going into my senior year. At that point, I had 11 catches for a career, and my goal was to like play in the NFL, which when you look at it on paper, that doesn't look very likely. And so I made a wallpaper for my phone. I wrote a whole bunch of things out in my notes app, but the headline was, "It only takes 1 year," and that gave me like the focus to like, this year is more important than anything. So I need to focus all my effort and attention into getting what I want out of this year.
Awesome. I like that. What that made me think of, so goal setting is a huge topic, and it's almost become cliche to where people are like, goal setting, whatever. But here's the thing, it's because they've never set a real goal and striven for it. And so one thing I talk about is starting with the end in mind. If I know where I want to get and I know where I'm at, it begins to build a little trail of how do I get there, right? It tells me, hey, what do I need to do to close the gap from where I am to where I want to go? So you starting with the end in mind of the NFL. Okay, every decision you make, does this help me or hurt me towards my goal? Does this help me or hurt me towards my goal? And this is the mental game. That's what we're talking about. Anything physical, gosh, if I was at a club and I let my body decide what I was going to do that day, I would be at the club dancing with the women, but here mentally, and you can still do those things and still be a mentally mature athlete, but knowing who am I hanging out with, should I be here right now, all those things, that's mental maturity. And knowing here's where I want to be. Is this decision I'm going to make right now to go out with this group of people or to do this instead, is that going to help me or hurt me? And it's that simple, but it's really difficult, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And then when you set a goal, everything else becomes binary. It's just yes or no. Like, is this helping me or is this not? And if it's not, then you know that if you're really serious about this goal, you shouldn't do it. And so it just makes every other decision.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying it makes every other decision simple.
Yep. So last night I got home from my vacation and I had some fun this weekend, but I have a goal of 15% body fat by June 17th. And so last night my wife comes home with these, I don't know, some crazy good dessert. And I had already told myself, and I had a reminder in my phone, hey, it goes off at 7:45, done eating at 8. Well, she didn't get home till 8:45. And I shouldn't have been eating this anyway. And I said, you know what? Like, whatever, I'll start tomorrow. Boom, I have one. Okay. And I'm like, damn, that was good. I had 2. And so this is showing our audience here that I do this for a living. And yet it's so hard that's a temptation. That's all it was. Yeah. It's a temptation. Okay. I can't even remember what it tastes like. But I'm going to be working those calories off, for a couple of days. Yep. So it's looking at the decisions in the moment. I know what to do. Usually we do know what to do, but it's, do I have the mental maturity, the mental fortitude to actually do what I'm setting out to do, right? Because when we have that delayed gratification, when I get to the NFL, I can look back at all the things that I missed out on and say, you know what, it was worth it. It was worth it. So
one of the quotes, I don't know who said it, but it's just, once you set that goal, you don't negotiate with yourself anymore. It's like, if this is what I'm going to do every day, then that's what I'm going to do every day. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters except the goal that I set.
Yeah, I love it. It's true. And then you said it only takes a season, right? You said it only takes one season. I'm going to challenge you on that and say it only takes one moment, or it only takes even one game. So I'll give you an example. Guy, when I got recruited to play at Mississippi Valley State, the guy ahead of me actually, and I'm from Southern California, he was from like 2 towns over, their current shortstop. And he had stolen more bases than anybody in the NCAA, which is also obviously a good thing. But I talked to him and he said, Ray, I got drafted by the Phillies off of one game. He said he was facing Max Scherzer, who was at the time at Missouri. And he went 3 for 3 with 3 triples off of him, or something very similar to that. And he got drafted off of one game because some scout was coming to watch Max Scherzer, who saw this guy and saw his speed and saw that he could play versus major league pitching. Max Scherzer is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. And so when we're talking to you athletes out there and performers, it doesn't take a whole season. It doesn't take a whole year. It takes one moment of the right person being in the right time. And so what does that do to every single moment? It shouldn't add pressure, but it should add intensity of, what am I doing right now? Am I giving my best effort? Because I don't know. I never know who's watching. So we'll talk, soon about a one-day contract, but I got to earn my one-day contract. Well, he earned a major league contract from one game. So pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, you're right. Effort is by far the most important. You can set, like, you can visualize everything. You can write. You can have everything else with the mental game taken care of. But at the end of the day, if you're not giving your max effort, then it's all for nothing.
Yep.
That ties everything together. Yeah.
It's action. I can have a blueprint that says, okay, the firm foundation's important, but if I just build something pretty quick and I forget that firm foundation, I have the knowledge, but I didn't have the action to do it. So